Hello and welcome to Byte Basics. I'm Earl Yager. We'll be going over a variety of different topics on our show. All of the different things that you always wanted to know about computers, the things that people seem to always assume you should already know about computers, all of the different things that are just kind of people think are background knowledge. So we're going to go ahead and explore those topics a little more fully and kind of delve into them a little bit. Today on Byte Basics, we're going to look specifically at computer file systems, how things are organized on your computer, how people put things in different places, and when you save things, where do they go, and all of those kinds of things so that it's easier to keep track of all of your information. And when we talk about file systems, there's a lot of things in common between real-world file systems that you might actually use with a filing cabinet and things that you see on the computer. So we're going to kind of make those connections as we go along. So if you'll go ahead and join me looking at my computer here. When we're looking at our computer, the whole screen there is what they call a desktop. And the desktop is very much like a real desktop. It's a place where you can kind of organize your files, lay them out. It's what you're working on right now. And sometimes we like to leave a lot of stuff on our desktops just like we do in the real world. And so some people have a lot of files laid out on their desktop, and other people try to keep their desk really clean with very few things on it. So you can kind of go either way. There's no right or wrong. It's your desktop. But we want to talk a little bit about how you can organize things, how you can set things up the way you may want to. So when we're looking at our desktop, right now I happen to have a very clean desktop just to kind of give you a starting point. When we look at our desktop, you can look more thoroughly by right-clicking. When you right-click on your computer screen, it's what's called a context-sensitive menu. So when you right-click, you're going to see options based upon where the mouse cursor is at the time you press the mouse button. So when I right-click on my anywhere on my empty desktop background, I get a set of options. That set of options would be different if I right-clicked on, say, my computer. So when I right-click on my computer, I get different options than when I right-click on my regular background. Now, when we look at our regular background, one of the options we have here is the New option. And underneath New, we have the ability to create folders. And we'll look into folders here in a moment. But when we do New and Folder, that's going to be the basic step that we're going to use to organize things on our computer, to kind of start putting things into some form of an organization scheme. So at any time, whether it's on your desktop, you can right-click and choose New, or in a minute we'll look at how you can go into other folders and also still right-click and choose New and get additional folders. If you look here, I brought some props with me today to kind of make some connections with the real world. So if you look over here, I've got a basket here of files. So when we're looking at computers, we have a hard drive. And a hard drive is very much like this whole basket. It's where all of the files are kept. Everything that you want to put into your computer is going to be in a file of some sort. It's going to be in folders and organized. So when we have something like this basket, this is going to be kind of like our hard drive. And so this is where we're going to put pretty much everything that's in our computer. Now, just like this basket is a small storage thing for files, some hard drives are really big, and you might liken that to a big 4-drawer filing cabinet. And so depending upon the size of your hard drive, you may have bigger or smaller baskets. So that can be different aspects of the actual hardware that you're looking at. Also, your little thumb drives or external hard drives are still very much like this basket. They're a storage location. So this basket is our main storage location, and we're going to put all of our data into this storage location. In a real-world file, we have different ways we can store things. We can have hanging files, so I have my hanging files. And inside of those hanging files, we can have folders, and so we have different folders in here. And I can put inside of these folders, I can stick folders inside of folders if I wanted to, so I can set them together. I can have multiple files in the same folder. I can even have really big folders. So if I have a folder that has multiple compartments and has multiple ways of storing things, I can have big folders with lots of information in them. Much the same way when we're looking at our computer, a computer has a hard drive, and this is what an actual hard drive looks like. So this is what you would see actually inside of a computer. So this is a real hard drive, and this is our basket. This is where all of our files live. So in this hard drive, we would find all of the folders that our computer has things on, and we would have all of the individual files all in this little hard drive here. So this is what we're going to be looking at on our computer. So we have a visual representation of this on the computer. So we're going to go ahead and look back over at the computer screen here. And when we look at the computer, you have an icon on your desktop called Computer. And you can get to it either by double-clicking it on the desktop. On some makes and models of computers, you'll find that this computer icon is hidden away. And so you may have to go to the Start menu and choose Computer that way. But either way, you can get to your computer. And when you click on Computer, you'll find your local disk, your hard disk drive. And that hard disk drive is the main storage basket that your computer has. Some computers are lucky enough to have multiple hard drives, so you may have multiple different places things are stored. But nevertheless, they're each like one of these little baskets that I had shown you earlier. So when we're looking at storing things, everything goes into that basket. And if your hard drive is full, you can't put anything more. So just like the basket itself, if the basket was full to the brim, you couldn't fit any more files in it, the same would be true there as well. So there's a lot of commonalities between the real world and real world filing, as well as filing on the computer. When it comes to your personal files, in order to help you keep things separated from the files that the computer needs to run and operate, the manufacturers of these machines have created a folder that is just for you to put all of your documents in. And so when you look at the list of folders here, there's a folder called Documents. That's your My Documents. That's the folder where they kind of have set aside a space for you to set up your own organization to put all of your files and things together. So if we go to Documents, you'll see I already have lots of folders and things in mine. This is where you can put all of your information. Now, if you don't want it to be a hodgepodge, if you don't want just everything thrown into one folder, very much like if we look back at the basket, if you wanted to look at that here on our baskets as well, on these baskets, I could put everything into one folder. I could put everything into just the same pile. I mean, I wouldn't have to have all of these. I could just throw empty, loose files into the basket itself with no organization scheme. Well, you can do that on the computer as well. The computer's fully capable of allowing you just to dump everything right into a hard disk with no organization scheme, no folders, no way of finding what's what. And so that might be a poor way to organize everything, because it would take you a long time to have to dig through the entire basket each and every time to find what you're looking for. So we're going to go ahead and look back at the computer screen. On the computer, when we're looking at where all the files are located, we may want to create different files, and we may want to organize with different folders. So the way we do that is, when you're looking at this here, we have a couple of different ways. I showed you one with our right click. We can find a blank area on the screen here and right click. Okay, let's see if it'll work with me here. And we can go down to New, and we can choose the folder option. So you can right click and choose New, and then Folder, and it will let you create a folder. Now, with Windows, this happens to be a Windows operating system. You have also, under Windows 7, you have a new folder option up here on the taskbar. So up here on the bar here, we have a new folder option. So I can also click that as kind of a shortcut to getting to a new folder. When I click that, what's going to happen is it's going to pop up a folder with the word New Folder, which will be the default name if we don't rename it, highlighted in blue, ready to go so that we can create a folder. It already has this pre-highlighted in blue so that it's selected, so that as soon as we begin typing, it replaces the words New Folder. So you don't have to worry about clicking on it and deleting the name or any of those things. It's already pre-selected, ready to go for you. You just start typing the name you want. So if this was a folder for my lesson plans, for instance, I could type in Lesson Plans. And as soon as I click away from this folder, so I can click anywhere else on the screen, as soon as I click away from it, it's going to reorganize and put it in the correct alphabetical placing. Okay? So I can create folders wherever I want. Now I can go within that folder, and just as we said on the real-world filing system, I can put folders inside of folders. The same thing is true here. When I go into this folder, I'm currently here at the top. You can see what folder I'm in. I was in the Documents folder originally. I'm now in the Lesson Plans folder. Now this section up here, they refer to this as breadcrumbs, because it's a trail back to where you came from. So you can look, I'm currently in Lesson Plans, but Lesson Plans is inside of Documents. And documents is inside this larger thing called libraries. So this is kind of a schema to show you what things are inside of what other things. And they call that a system of breadcrumbs. So here's my lesson plans area. I can, if I wanted lesson plans for certain units or things like that, I could right-click and I can choose New, do another folder. So this is the other method instead of clicking on the New Folder button. I can then call this maybe Unit 1. And so here's my Unit 1 lesson area. And I can go inside of Unit 1. And if I wanted to break Unit 1 down into further folders, you'll notice here at the top, Unit 1, which is inside of lesson plans, which is inside of documents. Okay? So these area up here, this area up here is going to show you where you're putting your documents, where things are going. So that's going to be very key to let you know where you are currently. Now this whole screen that we're looking at here, this whole area that we're looking at, they refer to that as a window. So this whole thing is a window. And that's because it's a way of looking into a particular file or a particular folder. So this is a window right now into the Unit 1 folder. So we can look in these with this. Now up here at the top you can close the window, you can minimize the window, and this button here that's called Restore or Maximize, when I hit Maximize it goes full screen, and then it says Restore, and Restore is going to put it back the size it was before. So I can use that to return it to the size it was before. This button is called Minimize. When I minimize it, it goes down to the bar down here. So I can use that to hide it away to see my desktop again. And then I can click on it down here to bring it back. And then, of course, the red X is to close it and get rid of it. Okay? Now, when it comes time to putting files and things into my folders, sometimes we want to be able to just drag and drop. So if I had a file out here that I wanted, I could drag it and drop it in here, and that would be one way of moving things into my folder. And that can work sometimes really well when we have things on the desktop and we want to drag them in or out of the open window that we currently have. Dragging and dropping is a very easy way to do that. But sometimes we may have several different things. Maybe we've never really organized things on our computer and we want to start putting things in the right places. So if I go back to my Documents area, I can choose from the quick menu here on the left. I have a lot of different common places we go to. I have my Documents folder here under Libraries. That's going to be where a lot of people already save a lot of the work they do. So if I have everything in my Documents folder and I wanted to move some of those things into my Unit 1 folder, instead of having to try to drag and drop them between two different places, sometimes it's easier to select multiple items and then copy them or cut them and then paste them to where you want them to go. So the way you would do that is you'd select those items you wanted to move. So maybe I wanted to select several items here. So maybe I wanted to select these items here. So you have a couple different ways you can do that. You can click on one item and you can hold down the Control key. And while you hold down the Control key on the keyboard, you can select additional items, and they don't even have to be right next to each other. And as long as I keep selecting a new item, it will continue to highlight different items that we're selecting. I can unselect an item by clicking it a second time, and now I no longer have that particular item selected. So I can select the items that I want to move or have in a different location. I can select the ones that I want. And here's where we're going to use that right click again, the context-sensitive clicking. So when I right click, I get additional options. These are additional things I can do with those selected files. The things I can do are cut and copy. There's other things that are specific to programs that I have installed, so we're not going to worry about those. But cut and copy as well as delete. And those are going to be key for moving things, removing things, or copying things, depending on where you want to put them. So if I wanted to move these to a different location, I might choose to copy them. And then I might go to that new folder, that Unit 1 folder that I created. So I'm going to, again, go to my Lesson Plans folder, double-click on Lesson Plans. I'll double-click on Unit 1. Now I'm inside of my Unit 1 folder. Now if I, again, use context-sensitive clicking by right-clicking, I can then choose the Paste option. And when I paste, it will copy all of those items into that folder. Okay? And so now I have a copy of them in both places. Now if what I intended to do was move them and not copy them, I would have wanted to then choose the Cut option instead of the Copy option. If I go back to Documents, I can select them again. Sometimes it may be nice to do the copy and paste and then come back and delete them if you want to be assured that they did get moved without possibly having lost them in the original location. Sometimes you like to copy and paste and then go back and delete them once you're done. I can then select those same items, and I'm going to use a different way of selecting. If you have a long list of items that are all in a row, you can also select items by clicking on the first one and then holding down the Shift button and keeping it down and clicking on the last one. And that will select everything in a list of items. So that selects the whole list altogether. Now I'm going to use the right click, the context-sensitive clicking, and then I'm going to choose the delete option. And that's going to go ahead and delete those items. Anytime you delete, it's always going to ask you if you're sure you want to do that. So you can always be certain that you get a chance to say no. So I'll go ahead and say yes. Okay, and so now we've moved things into a different folder. Now going back to the office type paradigm, the desktop paradigm as they say, on my desktop here I have a recycling bin. Now in my classroom I might also have a recycling bin, and if I took a folder out of my basket or a file out of my basket, and I can go ahead and look back at the basket here if we wanted to look back at the basket here. On this basket I could take some files or folders out of it, and then I could go and throw it in the trash. And if I threw those in the trash, if the custodian had not come and emptied the trash, I could potentially go and pull it back out if I found that I threw away something that I errantly meant to keep. Oops, man, I meant to keep that. I need to go get it. I can go and dig that out and see if that's there. And the same thing is true on your computer. When you throw something away, even after you've said, yes, I want to put that in the recycling bin, that recycling bin is sitting there on your desktop of your computer. So you can go to the recycling bin on your desktop, open it up, and see everything that's been thrown away. And you don't have to empty that recycling bin until you choose. But once you know that everything in there is no longer something you need, you should and may want to go ahead and empty that recycling bin. So if we look back at our desktop here, we can show you that recycling bin and how to get things in and out of it. So on the recycling bin here on our desktop, if we right-click on it, we have context-sensitive options, we have open, and we have empty. I'm going to go ahead and choose open here so we can see everything that's in it. And so I have all of these different things that are in my recycling bin. And so I have a whole slew of things here. You can't just open these things, you actually have to restore them. I can restore them all. They have a nice little button here at the top, restore all items. Or again, with context-sensitive clicking, I can right-click on an item and choose a specific item that's in the trash can to restore. So I could dump everything out of the trash can and pull it all back, or I can pull out just the one item that I want. Okay? Likewise, I can permanently delete all of them by choosing the option up here, Empty Recycling Bin, or I can permanently delete item by choosing the delete option from within the recycling bin. When you choose that option, the only way to get an item back at that point is to go to extreme measures. So much like in the classroom, if the custodian's already taken stuff away, you'd have to go through pretty extreme measures to get the item back. Well, same thing ends up being true in the computer world. You have to go to software that restores from being deleted, and sometimes that's not very successful, and you don't always get everything back, and sometimes it's more destroyed than good, and that looks very much again like what you see in the real world. If things have already been taken away, it's gone. So you want to make sure that you use that carefully. Okay? So when we look at our computer, we see that a lot of it is organized very much the same way you would expect things to be organized in a real-world office or in a real-world classroom. You have files and folders. You have folders stored in containers like filing cabinets, in this case called the hard drive. And you have a trash can, and you can put things in and out of the trash can. The last thing I want to show you is a reserved location on your computer. So if you look again at my desktop with me here, within the computer, they've begun putting in a folder specific for downloads. And so you may find that folder here in your favorites area. They'll have it in downloads. Also, if you click on, when you're looking at the left-hand column here, you'll see your name, your username. When you're looking at your username here, you'll also see that downloads folder. And the reason this is important is in today's use of internet and email and all of these digital tools, a lot of times we're downloading files instead of creating them ourselves. So when we're downloading files from our email or we're downloading files from internet websites, we often wonder, well, where did that go? And in many cases, it defaults to this location, the downloads location. So if you're not certain where something went, the first place to check is that downloads folder. So you want to look in there to see where things went. So you may see things in here that are if you don't know where else to look. So that's where you may want to check, is the Downloads folder. Other than that, though, everything is organized primarily in your Documents folder. Now, it has a few other reserved locations for music, pictures, and videos that are folders specific to those kinds of things. And so if you're using a program that creates pictures, instead of defaulting to My Documents, it may default to the Pictures folder. Or if you're using a program that creates video, you may default to the Videos folder instead of your Documents folder. But even still, those are still folders. I can go into Videos, I can create a new folder and organize my video folder. I can organize my music folder, any of those. And so the ability to create new folders, folders inside of folders, copy and paste files between them, is very important for keeping ourselves organized. And it leads well into backups, and that'll be another topic that we talk about, is backing up your computer and how to store all your files for later in case something was to happen. Okay. So I think that's pretty much all we have for today's episode. Thank you all for joining me, and catch you again on Byte Basics.